What is up, family? I hope all is well. I just wanted to jump in and highlight some folks, man. I'm thinking a lot about what we currently have going on and what cycle are we in right now, and inflation, and how does all of that impact the housing market. As you know, we own a mortgage company, so this is something that we're all over. It's economics. Things like this is are things that we kind of really focus on in our business. And so I'm thinking about inflation now and how that relates, to the housing market and how these things could all play out. And the thought that I'm having is that America could potentially become a majority renter nation, and that's it's interesting, man. I'm thinking about the rise and fall of an empire, and how that happens. And I'm thinking about that from a beginning level, from a business standpoint. When you're first starting off in business, you're willing to cut all prices and cut out all the red tape and just get it done, man. How much are they charging? I'll get it done way less. I'll get it done in less time. You land the client, you do a phenomenal job. They come back, right? They then tell their friends, you do the same thing. You do it at a reasonable price. You do it reasonable timing, and you get it done. And this happens over time. And then you get, so big, you turn into a company. You start hiring employees. You start to have more expenses, which makes your final product cost a little more, because of efficiency. Well, we have currently inflation right now, and the inflation that we're having right now, the way that you fight inflation, it's very interesting, right? When you're a company, this is good, and you're way up, and you're costing so much, the consumer has to be able to uh, earn more to be able to afford to do business with that business. Otherwise, the market is telling you, I can't afford what you're producing, and you're telling the market, I can't afford to produce this any less because it costs me so much to bring it into the country, or to bring it, you know, to the table as a finished product. And you are in business uh, to, yes, make a product, but to make a profit off of the product that is produced. And so when you've gotten so large, but when you've gotten so large that your expenses are so high to produce the product, and the consumer is telling you, I can't afford the product, you have to really figure out what's going to happen here, because there's a cycle that could happen here. As you're at the top and the peak, there's another company or business or what have you that is coming in, and they're really low right here, and they can afford to do business a lot cheaper. So you have to figure out, how can I get my price from here to there? And that's where we are right now. And this is a period that we would call austerity. And that just means to be strict, or more stern, more firm, and kind of how you do business. And so you're trying to figure out, how can I cut prices? That's the place that I think that we're in right now as a nation. We are trying to figure out how to be more affordable to the market. And a couple of the easiest ways to become more affordable to a market is to either get your initial product, your baseline product that you're building off of, cheaper, or to cut the labor cost, right? And so, when the capital was being printed, and there was this quantitative easing and ease of monetary policy, you could make some mistakes and still make a lot of money. You could, folks could be like, "Hey, I'm just going to spend money just to try it out with you." I'll try it. I got extra cash. And the flip side now, where it is quantitative tightening, to where they're trying to make it tougher for you to get capital, tougher for businesses to get capital, businesses really have to decide, and consumers too, what actually makes money, what actually makes revenue for my business. Consumers have to decide, what actually do I need right now. And so your game has to be tight, and what you're doing has to be tight. You see austerity there? No, I can't. No, we can't do that. I even told my spouse a while ago. I said, "Man, I wonder if I think this market business is going to make you into a more direct person." I'm not. You're not being rude in a sense, but it's just, I can't do that. I have to do this, because this is the revenue producing item. We've even added in, a application fee to be sure that we are vetting our applicants properly. Because we have to get to we have to get to folks. We got folks saying, "Well, hey, Mike, I need you to give me a call back. I need you to let's do this, let's do that." And so we don't want to get so large that our expenses are so high that the consumer is saying, "Well, I can't," So therefore, we have to vet it a little bit more. The point is, we are now in a period or in a place where austerity is here. You as a business have to begin to decide, and this is the scary part in here. You as a business have to decide, what is my bottom line? What is the thing that actually makes the most revenue for me right now? Who makes the most revenue? Who am I keeping on staff, and who's got to go? I'm not, and again, we're talking about the rise and the fall of countries. We're talking about the rise and fall of businesses. If you don't do this, you're gonna fold. You're gonna fold. You're producing a product right now in a tight market, right, where the Federal Reserve and the wheels that be have shifted now to try to make monetary policy or to make capital hard to come by. So the consumer has less capital now than they had before to spend with you. So if you want to still produce a product that costs the consumer more, and you want to have the back and forth to say, well, hey, consumer, I just can't produce it any cheaper. I'm sorry. The consumer is going to apologize back and say, I'm sorry, but I just can't afford what you're producing. Right? This is a good place. I'm telling you, this is a great place now where the wealth of the rich can be taken by an everyday average person, everyday average Joe. Why is that? It is because you can afford to do business cheaper than a larger company. A larger company has so many different employees. There's just certain prices they cannot cut, they feel, because they've been doing this for so long and all of these different reasons. They cannot cut their price right now, or they just won't cut their price, which is the fall of empires. And then some companies are saying, you know what, we got to do what we got to do. We call those companies cutthroat. I have to get this business down. I have to get these numbers down. I have to get my numbers right. How do I do that? This is the time that we're in, guys. This is where we're at right now. I have to get these numbers down because I need to produce a product and figure out what I can actually do to actually earn revenue. There is no accidental money right now. There is, in a sense, but I'm saying as a consistency of where we're going, there's not going to be accident funds. You know what I mean? There's not going to be accident revenue, right? So we have to really fine tune what our model is that's going to make us revenue and the things that we're going to be trying and this and that. Some of that's going to have to hold. I gotta make sure that what we produce or what we spend effort doing brings back a return. Otherwise, we're done. And so when you're in that phase, you're looking at the ship to see who can't ride anymore. Who am I carrying? Who am I waiting to to get themselves together? That's not quite there yet. The eye is on you right now, and that business that is willing to do that, they're not cutthroat, man. They're doing what they have to do to consistently survive, and the consumer, the market, is asking the business, please, can you do what you got to do to get the price down? The problem is, this is how we do it. We get into an austerity posture of, I gotta cut these prices. I gotta let, this amount of people go, and, these things to make sure that we are rocking every effort within reason to produce revenue with all of our effort. And so that's where we're at right now. Why do I think that we could become a renter's nation? I think we could become a renter's nation because doing this, the monetary policy shift of raising interest rates, and these things, it's going to tighten up the lending. It already has. It's already tightened up lending so much currently. You have the debt to income ratio, right? if you have to be at a certain percentage, when that interest rate goes up, that means your mortgage that would have been for that $160,000 mortgage, that mortgage would have been, excuse me, $1,100, which would have had your debt to income, somewhere around, 40%. Now that that interest rate has almost doubled between the beginning to now, that same mortgage is maybe $1,700 per month, which means that you have less funds left over after your debts are paid. Debt to income leftover ratio. So because your debt to income ratio is off, you can no longer afford that home. What do people that cannot afford that home do? They either move back in with family or they move in to a rental property. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's going to open up more folks to go into renting versus owning. Okay. And then you have, the austerity posture of big businesses that are now cutting staff. How can I get this business cheaper? That, like I said, either you can bring in the baseline product you're building off of and get that cheaper, which is very tough because you still have the COVID issues that are causing real shortages, to where that shortages, less supply equals, a higher demand. You know what I mean? I need one. I only got a couple. Do you see what I'm saying? So supply and demand, that thing is going to cost more. So we still have that issue to where it's going to be very hard to bring down the baseline cost of things. So what can I control if I'm willing to control it? I can potentially get cheaper labor. And the way to get cheaper labor is recycling the staff, that staff that you've had for, I'm not, listen, there's a few different ways you can do it. I'm not recommending either, but I'm telling you what we're currently seeing, which is, how can I get this cheaper? Answer we're seeing is labor. Labor is really what's being focused on right now. If I got somebody who's doing this job for me and has been doing it for several years and they're really good at it, let's keep that person. But one that's really not as good, you gotta go. You gotta go. I got this guy paying 100 grand, 120 or so per year. This other person is making 70, $80,000 a year. Can I do without that person? If I can do without that person, that'll help me. Do you know what I mean? I got another person that's doing about, maybe a little less or right around there. Can I do without that person too? Do you know what I mean? And you cut out that middle staff. You keep the best people and you keep the ones that can just do paperwork. This is so controversial. Ask yourself, is this what's happening though? Right? And so at that point, you can actually produce a better product. Even if you're bringing in new employees to replace those middle higher people, you're still bringing them in at a lesser amount. Do you see what I'm saying? Than the ones that you let go. I don't know. You got, what do you got? You got 401ks, you got, all of these different things that those people have built up, vacations, and all of these monies that you have to, still pay them. There's something getting cheaper with those new employees that will help you cut costs down. Do you see what I'm saying? That is just the place that we're in. And if you're cutting out some of your staff, then you're having people that are unemployed. More unemployed people can't afford housing, right? So if you're losing your job, you're also going to need housing still. You're either going to move in with family or you're going to move into a rental property. And that is going to cause more rental properties needed, right? The more inflation continues to go up, the more austerity will be needed. The more it's like, oh, geez, well, I've cut all these folks. I still need to keep doing more cuts to offset. Do you see what I'm saying? And the more that this happens, the more there could be a breaking point to where it's like, well, geez, there could be a correction or a quick crash in a sense, to where you've got this higher group that's doing really good and you got that lower group that's not doing so well. I don't know.